Yeah! Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Air Doctor. We're here to bring you that boom bap breakfast. Not just me, I'm talking about us. I'm talking about the one and only Jackie Loma.
Hello, world, I'm your royal girl.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's an old favorite. Ooh.
The Runaways.
Yes, man.
Mm-hmm.
They are rock and roll history. They are representative of the previously untold, well, maybe not previously untold, but not given enough respect story of women in rock. Because the music industry is still and always has been and still and probably always will be in this capitalist society a white-led, patriarchal, very sexist, extremely racist environment. So women have had a hard time in rock music in particular because rock music is very sexually charged with the men's, right? So there's all of this focus on the bad boys of rock and the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they drive the narrative. But there's always been this kind of metal machismo, I guess, of white artists thinking that women can't rock as hard as they do.
Because you
and
had
the
them,
Runaways were one of those examples of fuck you.
Yeah, and you had the Cranberries too.
The Cranberries, and they were Irish, I think, either Irish or Scottish. Irish, yeah.
Irish, yeah.
With the lead singer, that lady had an unusually large head, but that's
So do you know why I chose this name and cover?
Let's see. Could it be Israel wantonly bombing things? Just
So when I think of the color red, I think of Russia.
Huh?
Didn't Russia just wind up bombing somebody?
Russia
dropped a bomb on somebody, didn't it? Recently?
Wait, we're talking about Russia bombing somebody. We ain't talking about Israel bombing a location in Qatar.
Well, that could be another one.
Where the top leadership of Hamas was there, allegedly to engage in a negotiation for the end of this genocide at the request of the Trump administration. So Hamas goes to Qatar in good faith, and Israel.
That's right, Ukraine. That's what I was talking about.
Russia is not bombing Ukraine. Russia is defending itself against Ukraine being used against it by the US and NATO. So Russia bombing anything and anybody is a response to what Ukraine is doing for the US and NATO. So nope, I'm not concerned about what Russia is doing.
Well,
Israel, on the other hand,
I read in the news that happened, so therefore I'm not taking away from nobody else's bombing. I'm just saying it happened.
All bombings are not equal.
Because it's getting bombed on. That's all I see.
All bombs don't matter.
God. Oh man. So yeah, I was like, damn, man. they still at it. But anyway,
Yeah, Ukraine is still at it. Yes, Ukraine is still at it, which is why Russia has to continue to respond, because Ukraine is still at it, because the US and NATO want the Ukraine to still be at it. So, you know what? Russia, do your thing. I get, because we believe in self-determination and sovereignty over here. And we know what Ukraine is. We know it's a proxy war, that the US used Ukraine to do exactly this to Russia for. But again, Israel, they're bombing boats, they're bombing Qatar, they're bombing Gaza. Now they're bombing the West Bank. I think they bombed. Didn't they bomb Syria again?
Listen. It's a lot of war going on here, there, and everywhere. I mean, so what does one war over another? I don't know. I just picked one. I mean,
and this is why we do the analysis that we do, unpopular though it may be sometimes, because listen, we say in the Black Alliance for Peace, we are for peace and we pursue peace, but we are not pacifists. So we're not sitting here talking about, oh, if you, and I say this as a liberation theology Christian, if you slap me on my cheek, I'm not turning it to give you, that's not even what that scripture means. So no, we are for peace, but we are not pacifists. And in order to defend yourself, sometimes you got to scrap, because if they're going to bring the scrap to your door, you better answer. And that's the situation with Ukraine and Russia. It wasn't, Russia just deciding, Vladimir Putin just getting up one day deciding, I'm gonna bomb them motherfuckers in Ukraine. No, this was like almost more than 2 decades of NATO longer than that, of NATO provocation against Russia. And then since 2014, 2015, with the US-backed coup in Ukraine, the fascists emboldened, elected into public office, installed in the police, in the military. And then those fascists started killing their opponents and leftists and progressives in Ukraine. And then the Ukrainian government started bombing the eastern region, starting a civil war, because the people in the eastern region are ethnic Russian. And they voted to secede from Ukraine after the 2014 coup and the election of the fascist government backed by the US. They decided they didn't want to be a part of Ukraine anymore, because, Russia did have that little issue of losing all those people and fighting the Nazis. So
why is Claw in the chat room but not on the screen? I don't understand this.
Who's Claw?
Claudia. That's my short. Claw.
Clow.
The Claw. Come on, Clow. Why is she in the chat room and not on the screen?
I don't know. I'm thinking that she didn't know she was supposed to be on.
Wow, boy, she don't listen. I tell you, I just don't understand, cause ain't no one send me a link. We working on that. I gotta get your email, Clow. But
I'm sending you the link, although it's a little bit difficult from my phone. But yeah.
So what was I saying? Anyway, so we jump right in. How was your weekend? Your week, y'all, you do anything?
Yeah, I let's see. What did I do last week? I went to New York for a day, for a couple of hours, because I was speaking for on behalf of BAP at the Taxpayers Against Genocide press conference and rally in New York City. Taxpayers Against Genocide is a group that formed to file a lawsuit against the United States government for violating several established pieces of legislation that say that the United States government cannot fund states that carry out war crimes. That's I think which I can't remember which amendment that is. It's too close to 8 o'clock, and I haven't had all my coffee. But Taxpayers Against Genocide has seized on the knowledge of that there are laws on the books that allegedly say that the United States cannot do what it has been doing for the past 2 years, which is literally funding a genocide. Which, listen, I think the fact that that is true, that there are laws that say this government cannot do this, and they do it anyway, and it wasn't just Trump, Biden did it for you, okay? Just the fact that we know this is true should give us pause and get us to start thinking about law and crime in a settler colony and what that means. Because if these people have laws that they have created that say that they can't do this, X, Y, and Z, but they ignore those laws, but these are the same people who come after us with law and order, we really, I think, need to start looking at what this place really is. This is not a nation of laws. It's not, there's no morality here. There's no. So I spoke at the rally in New York City. And I actually spoke after the guy, I can't remember his name, his last name is Garcia, the former military member who got arrested in Congress with a female, with a lady military member a couple of days before the rally in New York.
Can I bring on somebody with more political education
than you? Yes.
It's not much more, but
oh my
let's
God.
give it up for
Wow. Wow.
Y'all be disrespectful.
Already.
Big up to my crush Zinzabel. She in there talking shh.
What do you mean?
How was your weekend? Warrior Speed. Like it wasn't Russia and Ukraine didn't get down. Like that didn't happen.
Down.
Like that didn't happen.
They've been getting down.
Yeah, but y'all missing the point. Y'all missing the point.
I'm sorry.
I made a thumbnail about it, and it happened, and it wasn't the war y'all wanted to talk about. But it was God damn, boy!
Not all wars.
all wars don't matter.
Yeah, you're right, Isabel. In my nightmares.
Hey, Cloud.
Hi. I was just remembering you being in New York for that, and I was desperately trying not to make you laugh while we were listening to that guy speak.
It is so messed up because I did not want to. I can't control this. I cannot control the face. I can't. It's so he's he's former military, and he's still, and I think he has not been out for a long time because he's still very rigid. He's still very militarized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's speaking, and it's all good stuff, but he's all very like, I held up the Constitution and I told them, remember your oath to the Constitution, and we need to stand up. We need to live up to the values of this nation. And I'm, he's saying all this stuff about, America has lost its way and we need to get back to our values. And I'm sitting there looking at this man like, what value? Huh? And Cloud is down there taking a video with a look on her face, and I'm trying not to laugh. And I already had my notes because they told me, because we have so many speakers, you only have 2 minutes. And I'm sorry, I hear 2 minutes and I'm thinking I'm taking 5. So, because I'm just like that. And I'm sorry. No, I'm not. So I had written down my little 2-minute thing. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be respectful and I'm gonna respect the time. And this dude starts saying this, American values stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I can't say any of this because I gotta address all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was cool. I didn't, I wasn't antagonistic about it. But I did, explain, listen, this country has no values. They're living out their values. You are seeing their actual values right now. They're telling you the truth about exactly who this country has always been. That's why I'm here, because we've been saying this, and we understand that this struggle is our struggle too, and now it's yours. So I'm expecting him to be really salty toward me after I finished, but he gave me a hug. I walked by him. He was standing, after he spoke, we all kind of gave the mic to the next person and stood off to the side, and he's over there. And apparently Cloud was like, yeah, he was over there nodding the whole time. Yeah. And when I came off the mic, he gave me a hearty, comradely nod and gave me a hug. I'm like, oh my God, I accidentally made a friend. Huh. That's never my goal.
Cloud, how was your weekend?
Well, I was there at that rally for Taxpayers Against Genocide, and as Jackie was saying, getting video for it, and it was also my birthday. But of course,
Happy birthday.
It's 39. It's my last year of my 30s. I'm so happy to get out of this decade.
The dirty 30s. I remember that time. Oof.
Yeah. No, so I've been, but of course, what's a birthday without speaking at a rally? So there was a rally at the Simón Bolívar statue at Central Park South, and I went to speak for the Haiti Americas team at BAP. I'm one of the co-coordinators, along with Austin Cole, who's been a frequent guest here. And yeah, and hung out afterwards with some comrades.
They buy drinks.
Some amazing Haitian food. We had some beers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now
you ain't had to come out of your pocket. You ain't had to come out of your pocket for nothing this weekend, right?
No. Yeah. And now I'm down the shore for my yearly Mecca, down to the Jersey Shore. I know Erica's grinding her teeth right now. Down the shore.
That sounds great. Great. All right, well, that's dope. Well, I'm glad y'all got to connect this weekend. What we got going on? We got no guest today, but we do have another host coming through. They had to go handle some BI, so it's a beautiful Women's Wednesday. So
let's see.
We got some. He said, "Let's see."
See how long that's gonna last.
I mean, we got some pretty hard hitters on the screen. I don't see why it wouldn't be one of the best morning shows on the planet. That's right. That's what we say.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and I guess we can take a break and then we can get into it, jump into some news and some other things that's going on in this world right here on no other than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Welcome out, y'all. It's time for a remix on the remix.
We don't give a damn. We shot man in front of station. Boy, watch out. Look out of the half of mouth. John Junior cat. I picking up a friend John food off in yam. Inside the that man on the mission. We don't watch me 24/7 and we a program. Anything but try to test with that the one run second. And I end up in a Harlem anytime when I see it done. We don't want a number 3, no number 2 is number 1. And I anything but try to test to tell them wrong. In a 1993 for we no need no name brand. Just watch it general the under culture fashion. I now go come down to fake come cups no woman. Before no start up member no mother she a one. At the foundation of civilization. And a 9 months it take to bring up on this land. And if she did the wicked could not take a passion.
Yes. Let me take you back to 1993 with the man them called Junior Cots. Name of that song is Iron Gloves, mixed with a little bit of 2015. We talk about Ray Shrimmer off that album Shrimp Life. The name of that song is Throw Some More, featuring Nicki Minaj. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare, and where you go to donate at blkliberationmedia.org. Go get you some merch, go donate, show your love so we can keep this thing going right here, right now. Now, let's get back to our host with the most right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Oh, I'm finna crank up off in the VIP zone. See the money go up and she dance on sight by the end of the night, 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 by the end of the night.
And we have Erica K.
Okay.
All right.
Dope Black Liberation Media hat. Go cop that.
Oh yeah, can I get a hoodie?
Yeah. I've commissioned that once we hit 50
right.
okay, which will be the end of this week, that all our hosts get some hoodies. So
can I have a t-shirt? I don't like hoodies.
okay,
I have come to the conclusion that hoodies and me don't get along.
Oh really?
No.
Even when it's cold?
No.
Okay. Say less. A shirt for Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, Erica, you froze or you good over there? She froze a little bit. Or is it me?
I never know these days.
A little lag, but it's catching up.
Oh, okay. So I mean, we still gotta get our Ethernet
wire. It's been a month of this.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know.
A month of still having to get me the Ethernet cord is what I meant.
I didn't know you was. I didn't know when you was coming back. You never, let me know. So.
I did.
I'm surprised, All right, well, let me get off the screen so y'all can do what y'all do best, and let me go get in my lane.
That's funny. You look so menacing with the hat on. I'm into it.
So what?
Menacing with the hat on. I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Right. She does kind of look like a Venezuelan militia.
Yes.
Yankee, go home.
Literally.
Does it help that I have the middle? Middle
that's
Tennessee.
So funny.
Oh, I just got mine yesterday.
Yeah, it's Merch Wednesday.
Gun Club.
Yes, man. So much going on. So much. How y'all doing?
Good. Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, there's so much going on. I dropped something in the chat. I don't know if we want where we want to get started, but we did talk last week about, the militarization and essentially the encirclement of Venezuela. And even though it was not a majority, even though it was not a consensus made by CELAC, there was a majority block of the CELAC countries that came out with a statement. If we want to take a look at that, and maybe some of the some things that have happened since, some neocolonial countries just very quickly bucking to pressure.
Well, let's get into it then. Let's get into the news, because there is a lot, and yeah, let's do that. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. It's me, Jackie Lukman, and I am joined by Erica Keynes and Clau O'Brien Moscoso. This is Women's Wednesday, and this is the news. Let us start with Venezuela. Clau, what has happened since the initial proclamation of Maduro being a narco trafficker again? This is a recurring theme with the U.S. government and the Maduro government, and the murder of those
Chavez
as well. And you're right, and the wanton murder by the United States of those 11 Venezuelans. What's going on?
Right. So as you mentioned, right, there was a horrific, extrajudicial murder out in seas. The U.S. acts and behaves like actual literal pirates, right? They've seized Citgo ships oil tankers from Venezuela before. This is, quite possibly one of the most escalated points in time that I can remember, at least, against any sort of aggression against the Bolivarian Revolution and the Republic, right? And as I was mentioning before, right, these accusations that the U.S. lobs at Maduro, they did the same thing to Chavez, right? They accused Chavez of being the head of one of the cartels. I think it might have even been the same cartel, if I'm not mistaken. So this is just something that, they're just whipping up again, and some people are falling for it, right? But thankfully, a lot of folks are not, right? And there have been some, a majority bloc of the countries in CELAC that voted against U.S. military presence in the Caribbean, and against having their, the Caribbean Sea being used for war, and declaring that it must remain a zone of peace. Now, this is great, and I also think that I would have loved to see this for Haiti as well, right? Lula is out in front, really championing this. Again, I think it's a good thing, right? But then also is part of the core group and the current occupation of Haiti. So certainly contradictions there. But yeah, so this is just discussing some of the countries that have signed on to this. But also in just within days of the release of this statement, some countries have backtracked, right? I don't know, Eric, if you want to speak to some of that. I know that we've talked about it in the Hate America's team sort of chat, but yeah, if you want to take it.
Yeah, well, let's read a little bit of this article first, though, for folks who probably can't see it. So this is being reported in St. Vincent Times, where they say CELAC nations say no support for extra-regional military forces. And the article says Antigua, Barbuda, Barbados, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Dominica, Grenada, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Uruguay, and Venezuela as countries comprising the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, expressed their deep concern regarding the recent deployment of extra-regional military forces in the region. That's the United States military. In this regard, it is recalled that Latin America and the Caribbean have proclaimed a zone of peace, a commitment adopted by all member states and based on such principles as the proscription of the threat or use of force, the peaceful settlement of disputes, the promotion of dialogue and multilateralism, the unrestricted respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, non-interference in the internal affairs of states, and the inalienable right of peoples to self-determination. We also emphasize that the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean, the Treaty of Tlatelolco, constitutes a historic milestone that made our region the first densely populated zone in the world free of such weaponry. That this treaty reflects the vocation of our peoples for peace, collective security, and the definitive proscription of nuclear weapons as a means of coercion or threat. Furthermore, we recognize that transnational organized crime and drug trafficking pose a significant threat. Oh my God, I can't believe it. To achieving peaceful, inclusive societies. Therefore, we affirm our will to combat them as a priority, enhancing regional and international cooperation and cooperation within the framework of respect for international law and in compliance with existing legal frameworks and international conventions. And the last paragraph of the statement, the CELAC countries signing this declaration call for the promotion of a secure environment and reiterate their firm commitment to defending peace, stability, democracy, and development throughout the region. I mean, if that was the case, I don't see why they needed to validate those lies about narco trafficking, but okay, that was their statement. Erica, what happened? Why did some of the countries, and which countries, backed away from that statement, weak as it was?
Yeah, if you all see me frantically looking, I don't know where my phone is, because I had a few of the notes that I wanted to make sure I highlighted in relation to this conversation. So we're just gonna wing it. Um, um, yeah. So what I wanted to name more. So when this initially took place, I think a lot of the questions, because Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana are prominent supporters in terms of publicly speaking, but obviously they wouldn't be the only ones. So then the question remained: who is silently in agreement with this? And then you see with the CELAC statement and those who signed on and those who did not, like Jamaica, have been in agreement with this, what is happening with the U.S. And I love that Maduro, in a recent interview, he talked about the ways that they talk about the U.S.-Venezuela tensions, and that the ways that the particular narrative kind of omits that this is aggression. This is aggression towards Venezuela, and that is heightened aggression. And so we see that there are states, countries in particular, governments that are with the shits. But also the countries who signed on, initially there were more. Belize, not within 3 hours later, backed away and said, no, we support the US and what they are doing. There's a few countries, if we want to put that article back up, because at least 5 of those countries are also signed on for the occupation of Haiti, so to support the Kenyan occupation of Haiti. So Tamanisha John, I always like to highlight a lot of her analysis around this, because
Yes,
there is a way that the Caribbean, especially Caribbean governments, get talked about as progressive, right? But I do think it's very important that we understand the role of these particular kind of institutions that form from these multilateral governments. Like, what is the role of CARICOM? So last year, Black Alliance for Peace did a really good webinar on both CARICOM and the African Union and the roles that they play, these sort of neo-colonial roles. But CARICOM nations and CELAC nations, for the most part, aside from signing on to the Zone of Peace with the 2014, because there's many iterations of it, and in 2023, that was a part of multi-organizational front to start the bottom-up grassroots movement campaign of emboldening the Zone of Peace and backing much of what it calls for, like the people's right to self-determination, no war proliferation on their seas, etc. But even with that said, we see that these nations play both sides. Like, CARICOM exists not as a diplomatic entity, but as an entity that it exists as a body of states that are thinking about what is their relationship with one another as it relates to Western interests, like tourism, like those kind of factions. So how are they vying for U.S. or Western kind of powers? Like, what is it, Sandals Resorts pick their nations to go to, etc. Right? So that's really the body that CARICOM. It's more of a financial kind of regulation in those terms. It's like diplomacy on that level. But CARICOM does dip into, for the example of Haiti, these other kind of roles, which is not the role that CARICOM is set to play. But if CARICOM is going to play these roles, then where is these kind of statements, as Cloud says, for Haiti? Because in Haiti America's team, we're currently talking about like the emphasis on, what is now crime was previously last year violence. There's overwhelming violence in Haiti. There's overwhelming violence across the Caribbean, etc. Right? So now we're seeing the use of the word crime. But aside from that, we've always, since our start of 2021, when we were but a mere committee, before we were liberated into a team, Haiti being a sort of vocal point, and not only a vocal point, but like a laboratory for the relationship that the West has with the rest of the Americas. For instance, the OAS and these other institutional bodies and the role that they play. And also we could see a lot of that with the terms of the occupation. what preempts the occupation is the use of violence, right? So you see that now it's like the narco crime and narco trafficking, and the Caribbean is violent, and this crime is rising and spiking, that is allowing for these kind of it's validating Operation Trade Winds and these these military front and cooperation mechanisms that occur throughout the Caribbean. And then more recently, we put out the carousel on Instagram on the Lithium Triangle, and Cloud can speak to that. But we see how that is being used too. But we can all roads lead back to Haiti, because the way that the U.S. and the West deals with Haiti shows what they can and cannot get away with, shows what states will and will not comply with them, especially in terms of like what they're allowed to do in the face of the zone of peace. So we also see the way that they weaponize the language around the zone of peace as it relates to Venezuela, but nothing to be said about Haiti. So we always want to keep Haiti in that, prioritize Haiti in the way that Haiti is not being talked about at all in the mainstream way. But Haiti, if we look at what has been happening, and not just across the Latin America and the Caribbean, but also if we look at here domestically, like the Safer America's Plan, Biden's Safer America's Plan and the Global Fragilities Act mirror each other as both domestic and global policy, right? And so what we see that Trump is built on, what Trump has escalated, has been the Safer America's Act, which has over-policed cities based on the uptick or the war on crime. If folks want to remember that Biden was fighting a war on crime because of all the youth carjackings and the raids in these malls and the theft and things like that. And that was being propagated from city to city. So as the Safer America's Plan rolls out, so does the GFA, which says, this country, Haiti, needs to be occupied. Haiti is a testing point for this kind of occupation that we want to expand into Western Africa. And we also want to use NGOs and soft power. And we see that play out here through the sort of policy rebranding of more occupation.
Cloud, I really want to ask for people who I'm sure are wondering and want to ask, but feel like they don't want to, sound, because, people are like, oh, I don't want to ask a stupid question. I don't think this is a stupid question, but it's like the one question nobody ever asks. Why do these progressive leaders in the global South act progressive in one way, but then turn on Haiti? Why is Lula involved in the occupation of Haiti? Why is he on the core group? I'm just going to say it. Why do these Latin American alleged progressive leaders hate Haiti so much?
Well, this is historical, right? Bolivar betrayed the revolution when he didn't emancipate, right, and free slaves in these countries that were then freed, right? Like Peru's Independence Day, I think maybe it was like, now I'm getting my math wrong, like 50 years later, maybe even more, that then Africans were, like, slavery was abolished, right? So this is actually a historical betrayal that has continued to happen, right? I mean, even Evo Morales in 2004 sent Bolivian military to Haiti, right? So it's not above any of the, Dr. Jemima Pierre says it all the time, right? The supposed leftism of the Americas dies at the doorstep of Haitian sovereignty, and that's exactly it, right? Like that. It's not just that the U.S. Haiti as a laboratory; it's the rest of the region sees Haiti as a laboratory, and they understand what happens there. Whether they understand it and are just going to go along with it or what have you, right? But, red or dead, right? Social Democrats will just flip at the light switch, right? Just to be like, well, Haitians, fuck them, right? And nothing to say about literally the rest of the continent would not be free without Haiti's tremendous contributions to the liberation of the rest of the continent. Brazil would not be free. Literally, the rest of the continent would not be free without the actual tangible material support from Haiti, not just arms, training, right? But yeah, so this is a recurring theme when it comes to the region that I think is, you know, hence BAP, right? Like really the rationale for the team is that for us, Haiti is the entryway to the rest of the Americas, right? What happens in Haiti will be practiced out in the rest of the region. And to the point that Erica was making around violence, you know, we're hearing about like violence and gangs, and that's what's happening with, right, exactly. And this is the fact sheet that the team has on CARICOM and Haiti, right? Again, speaking to this formation, that is more or less economic, more or less, you know, sometimes cultural. But when it comes to Haiti, it is very much a military alliance, right? That goes along with the U.S., right? Certain CELAC countries also, you know, at the you know, within hours, mere hours of releasing a very tepid statement, you know, switch over. But so, and again, I think, yeah, speaking to Erica's point around violence and how we see this, how we started seeing this originating in Haiti, like you see this the rest of the country, right? Like, I mean, the rest of the region, Ecuador, right? If you want to talk about a narco trafficking president, quite literally, Noboa's family that owns, you know, what is it? No, they don't own the port. They own, or maybe they also own the port, but they own the banana company, right? And shipping company that is quite literally sending cocaine to Europe and the rest of, you know, mostly to Europe, but it goes on.
The Caribbean, most of the,
right, through the Caribbean, right? And I mean, also in Peru, right? The uptick of violence, I think in 1,000 days of the Dina Boluarte coup regime, there's been at least 5,000 homicides. 5,000, that's 5 a day. 5 a day. And
5,000 homicides in the first 1,000 days of.
Yes. But so along with that is an explosion of Southcom bases all up and down the Pacific coast of Peru, where my African family's from, in Piura, Talara. There's now a space command, right? Ready for, you know, Musk and Tesla and all of that to try out in their new weapons and such. I have family in Peru that work in the, I guess it's like the legal contracts for certain. I mean, it's fucked up. It's the legal contracts for being able to exploit the land. When it comes, I know.
That's called procurement.
Yeah. There's capitalists in my family. Pardon everyone. I mean, most of our families actually.
Yeah, that's called contracts and procurement.
Yeah. But typically, they could also contract out in lands where the U.S. was also contracting out. Now they're not letting anyone. So it's like if the U.S. has a contract on a specific land, no other company, the state itself, the Peruvian state itself, cannot exploit that land. They're literally taking over entire areas to, one, ready the battlefield for an eventual war with China, right? Because they're quite literally militarizing up and down the Pacific. But then also, you know, as Erica mentioned, right, BAP and the team, an amazing job from the Propaganda and Media Committee of the Haiti Americas team, right? And we have so many folks that are very, very excited to do a lot of things, but we have structures there that you can join to collectively do this, you know, so maybe think about doing that instead. But they have, you know, maybe think about organizing. I don't know.
What'd you say, Erica?
No, I was saying shout out to Caribbean Solidarity Network as well,
who's working with us and doing a phenomenal job in supporting all of the work that we have, right? We're coming out with so much material, so much propaganda to highlight all these different instances of U.S. machinations, imperialism in the region, right? Like, so specifically to the question around the lithium triangle, right? That's an extremely important thing in terms, when we think about imperialism, right? Like, lithium, it's always going to want, you know, the resource of the moment, right? And what it was saying in our interview was from last year. You know, we're lithium and rare earth minerals are all the you know, all the fashion now. They're so trendy, so of course they're going to want our resources, right? And you know, the thing that he said that I think echoes everyone in the region is like, what is our fault, right? What is our problem? Is that we live under all of these resources that the imperialists want. So then we didn't choose this battle, but it's come to us, right? The war, we didn't choose this war, but here it is. So what are we going to do about it, right? And I think that kind of war footing, similarly, right, as Eric was pointing out, that these issues of violence and then justifying that to then militarize your neighborhoods, like we know that internally as well, right? So yeah, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
No, it's my own fault because I'm lagging. So when it seems like you stop, you haven't. No, I wanted to even note when you talked about Space Command, because so the U.S. has the world caught up in a multitude of commands. AFRICOM, SOUTHCOM, obviously we talk about all the time. The Indo-Pacific Command, CENTCOM, but then Trump, his last iteration of presidency, when he was running the country the last time, introduced the Space Command. So that has been a thing for the last couple of years. So two things I want to note. When the African, what was it, the African Forum or the African People's Forum, Jackie, what was it titled? They came here in December 2022, I believe, or was it 2023?
I think it was 22. African People's Forum. Yeah, African People's Forum. Yeah.
Right. So that was heads of state of Africa that came to meet with the Biden administration and have these conversations. And one of the things was a deal with the Congo and some of the countries around it for resources for Space Command. And that was under the Biden administration. And then you see the next, so it was 2022, because in the following year was Gaza, and then, you know, more focus on the Congo and what has been actually occurring in the DRC. But these bills have been signed. The other thing I want to know is that for the last couple of months, pieces of Space Command has just been dropping in the Caribbean Sea. So not only is the U.S. just bombing people in the Caribbean Sea, but they're dropping all part, like these things have been just falling into the Caribbean Sea. So we don't even know what kind of particular damage it is going to cause in that region, especially since around Cuba, around Florida, we've seen that like orange, mossy thing just spreading. So we don't know what kind of, if we're talking about like ecology and things like that and the environment, we don't know what kind of particular damage it's going to cause to the region, but it's also not even being dealt with. So the U.S. doesn't have to answer for spacecraft pieces falling into the Caribbean Sea. The U.S. does not have to answer for the oil spill outside of Tobago last year, because nobody still to this day knows how that happened. And it was a gigantic leak that I don't even know it has been cleaned up. And nobody has to respond to 11 people being murdered unilaterally. No due process.
Right.
Yeah. Violations of all kind of international law, since we want to pretend that we care about those things, right? When it suits us. All kind of violations of international law, and then nothing is done. And then so we watch these countries still say, okay, U.S., whatever you want to do. And I think we need to pay close attention to that, because the way, especially that region in the Caribbean more specifically, there's a particular saber complex around Haiti, right? Not dissimilar to, I think Chichimacha said it in the chat, around this is how the Arab nations like respond to Gaza, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, well, just come and, you know, we can find refuge here. Just leave your land and come here, and we'll, you know. And so there's like a saviorist kind of, oh, they don't know how to govern themselves. Obviously, these people are out of control. We see these kind of colonial aspects that are going across state lines, are going across waters, right? And I think we also have that Black Alliance for Peace, Haiti America's team has a we've written something about the colonial aspects between, or the colonial similarities between Cuba, Haiti, and Palestine, like these checkpoints and no sovereignty and no regulation, and so the way that we understand these things, I think, is very important. When we circle back to Haiti, especially now in this moment, as all these things are happening with Venezuela, it's not to ignore what's happening to Venezuela, but it is to put it into context of why it could happen to Venezuela, right? So similarly, when we talk about the escalation here in the US and how we speak about the escalation, is not to ignore the escalation and the Trump administration, but to explain how an escalation can occur and why it's happening to us. I think so. When we talk about having a dialectical analysis, I think we talk about that sort of historical materialism, right? Things are not happening by happenstance. War is not falling out of the sky. Like,
right.
Okay? War is preempted.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Strategized.
So war is
Exactly. It's strategized. It's planned. It's intentional.
Right.
This is none of this is like an oops by these people. It's not like none of these are like unintended consequences of actions that may not have been as malevolent as they turned out. No, the entire point was to do exactly what's happening, and both parties. That is why we have to understand how we got here, because when we do, we realize, okay, the Republicans couldn't have done this if the Democrats hadn't done all of this before and kind of tag teamed each other. Because when we, Erica and Clow, we were talking about the Global Fragilities Act and all of those pieces of legislation. We were at Howard University when the State Department came and did their little tour promoting the Global Fragilities Act. And we heard those people lie. And unfortunately heard the African students kind of, validate the lies too and celebrate them, right? So this is not a new kind of thing. I think, and I like what you said before about this, Erica, and you alluded to it a little bit. We can look at what is happening now in this administration and we can call it whatever we want, but we cannot keep calling it unprecedented, right? Because these things have a process. We got to this point because of a process, an escalation of incidents, of actions, of policies, of incursions. So what is the escalation from? That is the important question that has to be answered, because we can deal with Trump, okay, and eventually he'll go away, somebody will replace him. But if who replaces Trump is a Democrat, then what are we going to do about them, who were also responsible for getting us to this point? Because they're a part of the escalation. And that's why we can't ever talk about these issues of militarism and warmongering and fascism and genocide as if there are isolated incidences that are not connected to an entire settler colonial white supremacist patriarchal Zionist plan to replicate this oppression wherever they can for the maximum profit of just them. Yeah, that's why we talk about these things the way we do, because they are connected.
And also, just to say, right, like the Monroe Doctrine never stopped. Like quite literally never stopped, right? It's 102 years. It was signed in 1823. That we're just seeing the same doctrine, right? But like newer technologies, I suppose, right? Or like newly discovered resources, right? But the plan is the same.
Yeah, it doesn't have to switch because it works. But because even to that point, right? I think this is why we put the emphasis on when Biden comes into office, and then he refers to the Americas now as
his front yard.
Right? It's no longer the backyard. You're all in the front yard. Still not allowed in the home.
Right.
You still can't come inside, but you can come out to the front now. Like, I mean, what are we saying? So
exactly.
Right. So it is a play on words. It's appealing tactically, but objectively and strategically, it has remained the same. This has always been the strategy of the U.S., EU, NATO axis of domination. It's why we highlight how these configurations work and how they work in tandem. It's why we say domestic and global imperialism are counterparts. They work in tandem. It's not happening over there. Like, even when they talk about the imperial boomerang, I'm always like amused by the term a bit, because it implies that these things are not happening in tandem. And historically, we know that when they were doing those mosquito tests in the projects in Miami, right? What were they doing that for? So they could let it loose in Vietnam, like in tandem.
Mhm.
And so that's what we have to understand, that our struggles are tied together. And
Exactly.
so in the ways that we understand that is important. There was also a thing that I want to, a little caveat about the international law thing, because currently I'm in a cadre program with the People's Academy. So they've been talking about, it's really good, by the way, thank God. You know, I miss Marxism for people who know it, you know. People who have been reading the text.
People who read.
I do, because then you get, they engage in study, you get to have the struggle around it. But we have been talking about imperialism and international law and how this has been affected. And then, I was at Red Emma's the other day, and I can't help myself. I think me and Petros have a sickness. But I got this book, Africa and the Backlash Against International Courts, because I do want to have a better understanding of what is it that we're doing when we reference the international courts to some aspects, but then also understand clearly that these things hold no weight. But I have a better understanding of why no one has been able to hold Israel's feet to the fire, because international law is law, and the way that laws are written are very freaking specific. And Israel has been able to play the that wasn't my target. That's game. And that is how they've been able to slide by in some instances, right? Where in opposition, the U.S. is boldly saying, hell yeah, we killed 11 people in that boat, and we'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, like, did you see that we changed the name? Department of Defense is now Department of War. That's right. It's been...
Even to that point, right? The 1033 program, which we have been discussing since the inception of the Black Alliance for Peace, the 1033 program, which puts militarized weapons from wars that's happening overseas, from these occupations in Africa and Gaza, etc., into our local neighborhoods, right? And and that budget increases every time the Department of Defense budget increases, because it is a program under the Department of Defense. So when we say we are a people at war, and we need to understand clearly we are at war, they have made that shit bold-faced, because now the 1033 program is under the Department of War.
Right? And because we don't know our history, we don't know that that's what it was originally called.
Right. So, but
that's what it, like, Department of
went
Defense
back.
Was the lie. Okay, that was the lie. The Department of War was established as the Department of War, and its initial purpose was to cleanse the indigenous from the West so the settlers could have it.
If that's not a more perfect example of settler colonialism, right?
But you know what? You know who we can trust to be consistent, although we're not sure with what? The ear doctor.
Not analysis. Is he frozen or just?
No, he's not frozen. He mad. What?
Wow. Let me give a highlight to genius. Big up to brother Jamil. This is what the Remix Morning Show holds as real power and value. The brilliance of the panelists' insight under the guidance and production of Ear Doctor. Thank you, brother Jamil. Make sure y'all go check him out and his wife. Very beautiful podcast.
That's why
Jamil you tip him
compliments. Look at you plugging the show.
I saw your message, brother Jamil. Hit me up.
Real recognize real. You know what I'm saying? And what's this? Chichimanda says, I think I just found what Ear Doctor was attempting to talk about, omitting parts. Poland shot Russian drones trying to trigger Article 4 of NATO to enter into Ukraine conflict. Russia is responding. Oh, wow. He actually knew what he was talking about.
I didn't
Crazy.
say it didn't happen.
No, you didn't.
I didn't say it did not happen. I said I don't care. That's what I said. Because Russia is right.
He needs to stay in his lane. He don't know no news. Blah, 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 blah. This wasn't even about you, Jackie. This is for my fans.
I did not say it didn't happen. I said I don't care because Russia, good. Do it. Do some more.
You know, I just like to bring on white crime, white crime sometimes. You know what I mean? I get tired of us talking about blacks on blacks and whites on blacks. You know
what?
That's why I like a good gangster flick. They usually mob flick, white on white crime.
Oh my god!
All right,
that is why I watch the true crime documentary.
See, all right, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and take a break so we can get right. What you say, lackey?
What? A lackey, boy. If you don't.
We got Jackie, Lackey, and and Cloud. Big up to all y'all tuning in right here, right now. Thank y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member where they get footage that's rare. You know what it is, man. Donate, show your love, share. Let people know that we are here so we can reach our 50K mark and go past that like it ain't nothing. All right. Boom, we got a bunch of dope shows here on Black Liberation Media in case you didn't know. Let me go and talk about one. Let's talk about the Black Miss podcast as they talk about capitalism and, you know, black buying. Let's check them out.
We hear people say buy black, not just from black folks, from whites. We see it be incentivized, that there are loans. And even though there's still a ton of roadblocks that prevent a large majority of folks who may want to go into entrepreneurship from opening their black businesses, there still is, in the same breath, a lot of spaces in which white supremacy benefits from us playing a part of their game. And so while there is a notion of overall ignorance of black people, I think, like I said earlier, like there was a need for us to have businesses from the beginning of time, right? And I think a lot of times that the narrative got pushed, and we really addressed this when we talked about Black Wall Street. Once we saw the impacts of integration, everybody has talked about MLK saying, you know, integration was us going into a burning house, and how it actually was far more detrimental. We lost so much, at least moral sovereignty, even though we never physically had it, that there was this push to bring that back. And so when folks, and I think that is where folks get things twisted, is this notion of buying black. I think a lot of folks think we're actually striving for liberation. And in reality, we're aiming to gather a sense of pride again.
Ooh, is that right? Are we trying to gather a sense of pride, or are we trying to get rich? I don't know. Let's talk about it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Make sure y'all go check out the Black Miss podcast to get the rest of that. Let's get back to the Remix Morning crew. Well, the boys are still here. All right. There we go. All right. So we lost some.
Oh, wait. What happened?
They just jetted.
I don't know.
Did I heard?
It started raining here, so it there may be weather interference for Erica. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I just noticed because Kamathi came in here like, "Ma, I can't go outside. It's wet."
Oh, okay. Claw's internet went down. Hold up.
See?
So, God damn, is that terrible over there?
It's the United States. What infrastructure?
I thought they put all the wires underground or somewhere. I don't know.
Here?
No.
They got to pay people to do that. They ain't gonna do that.
Oh my goodness, that is
no.
Wow.
And anything that's gonna benefit us, we ain't getting that. But now, to answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
are we trying to get free or are we trying to get the bag? Both.
Both.
There are clearly many of us who are we're just trying to get the bag, you know,
Yeah.
and some of those people claim to be organizers, revolutionaries, whatever. But you know, you see how they move, you see what they do, and it's obvious that they really are trying to get the bag. And then there's the rest of us, and I won't even say the rest of us, because I think now most of our people are really just trying to survive. I think, and this might be kind of a controversial thing to say, but I do think that the government response to the decades of successful organizing among Black people in particular, and labor organizing that was interracial, it was multiracial, not interracial, multiracial, multicultural, and was successful. I think the government repressed those movements brutally, obviously in order to silence people, to stop the movement, but also to warn everybody else, listen, if you organize and try to change this system, this is going to happen to you. And then everything that came after that was all a part of that. The saturation of our communities with drugs, right? That wasn't like an accident. That was a part of this effort by the ruling elite to continually suppress a movement for liberation and against capitalism and militarism that was a threat to them. That's why they did what they did, because we were organizing our people and we were forming multicultural coalitions, rainbow coalitions, and all of this kind of stuff. The takeover of Lincoln Hospital, we were kicking their ass. And that's why they responded to our movement the way they did, with this decades long, still going on campaign of repression and propaganda and deep indoctrination. So a lot of our people have been, I think we have generations of people who what we're seeing now in a lot of the culture of the youth that we're seeing, that we don't like, that we're wondering what the heck are they doing, what is going on. I think that's a result of this propaganda, where we've seen generations of our people exposed to the takeover of the entertainment industry by the same forces that destroyed our movements. These are not separate groups of people. If we don't understand that the music industry is a part of this capitalist project, that the movie industry is a part of this imperialist misinformation project, then I think we should be able to better understand why we have generations of kids, and not just our kids, but all American kids, I think, really susceptible to this really bad nihilistic entertainment that doesn't provide any thought-provoking anything, but just more confirmation of the empire, and the best you can do is what is already here. You know, don't even think about doing anything different from what is here. Just really do your best to find your niche, your place in this current system, because look at the rest of the world. It's an entire mess. And there are a bunch of savages, and on and on and on. And I do think that from what I'm seeing, I think that's one of the reasons it's very difficult for us now to organize our people, because I think we are that indoctrination, that program of suppression and the destruction of our movements is still going on. And I think it was deeper than a lot of us understand. And I agree. I think Erica is right. The 90s were not studied as well as it should be, because a lot of the attitudes that we're seeing, this nihilistic, I don't care, I don't have nothing to do with politics, I don't get into politics, or I'm not African, that don't have nothing to do with me. A lot of this stuff came straight from the 90s.
It looked like it stopped raining a little bit. We got our other host back. No? Okay. Well, we still got a little blurriness on cloud. But I was thinking about, I'm not out here. For me, I'm not trying to live my life trying to get rich. I would like to, what was that? Reek something in your throat?
Yeah, disbelief.
Oh, okay. Why? No. If I was trying to get rich, I wouldn't be here right now with y'all. So the thing is, I value time more than riches, and I really feel like, I just want to go and travel a little bit. So the money I'll get right now is for me to go and travel and see the world. I don't want to just be here in the States and be like, damn, live my whole life just here in the States and really get to travel. But other than that, that whole generational wealth, I got it from the mud. My kids can get it from the mud. Give them a little bit of something to start off with. But other than that, I just want to travel. I don't really want to get rich. And when you travel, when you try to get rich all the time, all your time is consumed by trying to get money. I'm like, I'm not trying to do that shit. Too much. All right. Enough of me.
Yes, very compelling passport bro aspirations.
Yeah. Right. Well, I do want to acknowledge, I do absolutely want to acknowledge that Ear Doctor was not, he wasn't making stuff up. Yes, Poland did shoot down a Russian drone. It is noteworthy because this is the first time a NATO country has gotten directly involved that we know of in this conflict between this proxy war between the US and NATO and Ukraine against Russia. Here we go. Yes, this morning, which I guess would be yesterday there, Poland shot down drones in its airspace on Wednesday there with the backing of military aircraft from its NATO allies. The first time a member of the Western military alliance is known to have fired shots during the proxy war that Ukraine is fighting against Russia. I'm not ever going to call it anything other than that. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk told Parliament it was the closest we have been to open conflict since World War II, although he also said he had no reason to believe we're on the brink of war. Which is it? Make up your mind. Which is it? You're either closer to another war than you've ever been since the last big war you were in, or you're not on the brink of, oh God. Moscow denied responsibility for the incident, with a senior diplomat in Poland saying the drones had come from the direction of Ukraine. The drones didn't come from the direction of Russia. So how are they saying they shot down a Russian drone? European leaders who have lately been trying to persuade US President Donald Trump to join them in tightening sanctions on Russia and boosting support for Kiev said it justified a collective response. There was no immediate response from Washington. Poland said 19 objects had entered its airspace during a large Russian air attack on Ukraine, and that it had shot down those that posed a threat. Wait, I thought they said they weren't close to war. So how did the drones pose a threat? Tusk called the incident a large-scale provocation and said he had activated Article 4 of NATO's treaty, under which alliance members can demand consultations with their ally. Consultations means help me bomb another country into oblivion. A NATO spokesperson said NATO chief Mark Rutte was in touch with Polish leadership and the alliance was consulted closely with Poland. A source said NATO was not treating the incident as an attack, but as an intentional incursion. Polish F-16 fighter jets, Dutch F-35, Italian AWACS, surveillance planes, and mid-air refueling aircraft jointly operated by NATO were involved in the overnight operation. Okay, That is what happened. And aside from the kind of, to me, obvious lies that they are telling about this, again, Russia has a right to defend themselves from this. This is, and they admit it in the article, Poland did this to trigger Article 4 in order to get the other NATO countries to respond, because Article 4, I think, states that, is that the article that states that if one NATO member is attacked, then all of the other NATO members must respond.
It's the touch one, touch all rule.
And attack and respond to the country that allegedly. So Poland is claiming Russia has attacked it with these drones that came from Ukraine. So you mean to tell me the Russian military doesn't know how to direct drones in the right direction? Really? And Poland tries to trigger Article 4, but then NATO responds and says, no, this is not something that we are going to activate Article 4 for, but we're going to keep a watch on it, which leads me to conclude that this is bullshit. This is, I could be wrong, but I don't believe a bit of this story. I don't think those drones were Russian. I don't think Russia accidentally, Russia knows how to fly some damn drones. I think this is exactly the way it seems, exactly how it sounds. Poland decided they were going to try to bring the other NATO countries into a full-on confrontation, military hot war with Russia, and it didn't work this time. That's what I think. Could be wrong, but again, like I said earlier, I don't care, because Russia has a right to defend themselves against all of this mess. So what are y'all's thoughts, though? Because I could be wrong, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I knew, this morning, beloved Jill Scarborough and Mika in the morning, they talked about the Russia bombing. That took up a good portion of their segment today. What did not was the Israel's bombing of Qatar. So
Qatar, right?
I think that's just interesting optics for me, because there is a way that they are. I think. Let me just say this. So currently, the North-South Project, the People Studying Human Rights, is running the petition to ban U.S. and Israel from these global sports games. So we have made the petition to FIFA to ban U.S. and Israel, primarily because they should be seen and identified as the greatest threat to humanity, given that the U.S. is currently just bombing anyone they want to, and so is Israel. Aside from what happened yesterday in Qatar, it has also been Egypt and Syria and Yemen and Lebanon and Gaza, and Iraq and Iran. And that's in the last 2 years. So Israel is just bombing whoever they feel like bombing, with the support, obviously, from the U.S., because the U.S. has a large military base in Qatar. There's no way that they did not know that was coming. So they obviously told their folks to stand down, which also shows the complicity. But I named that petition, obviously we're pushing this petition so we can highlight these particular contradictions, but I named that petition because since the onset of the Ukrainian proxy war, which was, according to UN bylaws and international law, Russia was within its right to defend itself and respond, because moving closer and closer and closer to their border is an act of aggression. So that's why I maintain that it's a proxy war, because they were within right to do what they did, regardless of the narrative that is being spun about it. But Russia has been banned from the Olympics, from the World Cup, from all of these global sporting events, right? Because of the anti-humanitarian acts and acts of war and all of these things. So I just think it's interesting because the way that Russia is being depicted now, the day after what just happened in Qatar, it's a redirection. And so that we are not focused, because there is conversation happening about Qatar. I don't want to say that there is not, but the conversation is very specific around Trump and what he's allowing Netanyahu to do, because, you know, after January of this year, everybody woke up and said, oh shit, it's a genocide in Israel. When Trump took office, it's like, oh shit, they're killing people in Gaza. So now people are concerned and they're naming it. And so you would hear little passings in segments where they highlight this is another thing that Trump has done. But immediately it's like, oh shit, look, Russia bomb. So when I heard that that's why I think what he thinks of Russia, he thinks of red is a lot. It has to be doing the most. But I'm not surprised that that's the first headline that he would see, because it is a major headline this morning, where what happened in Qatar is not, especially because even to the point that you named earlier about how they kind of tossed in the narco trafficking thing and the drug trafficking, I do want to name, there are aspects of that I do think should be highlighted, because again, this is not happening by happenstance. This is very much with U.S. involvement, Western involvement, and that is why they have made the call for the zone of peace, because of the ways that the West has pushed, you know, since the Iran-Contra deals over these last couple of decades, influx drugs into the area and cause a lot of destabilization, et cetera, so that the region is quite aware, which is why drug laws are so fucking serious in these countries. They don't play with that shit, primarily because they understand the sort of weaponization of the narco trafficking call, where the U.S. gets to say, you all are the biggest drug dealers, it's you, right? And kind of rewrite the narrative. So I do think that it's important that we kind of highlight these kind of instances where we're seeing it play out in one way here and another way here, because they're going to keep doing these things. But I do think we see when they talk about, like, CARICOM, for instance, when CARICOM speaks about the genocide, only because grassroots movement in the Caribbean have been on their ass about their relationship with Israel, about not saying anything about Palestine. So while they would recognize the genocide in the statement, they would also condemn Hamas and demand that they release the hostages, right? And I think that's a different kind of statement from what we saw with CELAC, where we do have to kind of have some recognition that this is a serious issue in the area, but for very specific reasons, being carried out in very specific ways by very specific players, which isn't omitted in that statement. But yeah, just trying to land some planes and tie some of these things in, because I do think it's important that we understand the way that Russia is talked about today, still with that sort of air of Soviet Union communism, even though Russia has not been communist since 1991. Right. You know, the fall happened, a whole new governance, new laws. Now there is an existing communist party that is, well, you know, they have ranks in the government, they have ranks in parliament, they do have ways that they're big, but Russia's big. I do think that's also important. You know, when we talk about Russia as white, you know,
Right.
Yeah. Our lack of knowledge of other places and other people always astounds me.
It's that U.S. exceptionalism, right? Like,
yeah,
it's very, it's the bravado, right? Like, it's very gringo.
yeah. But we got this. We were talking about the petition that you know, the North-South Project for People-Centered Human Rights has created and is circulating centered on FIFA and the IOC, and demanding that they ban Israel in the US from sporting events. So here is a latest video. Turn the sound on.
هذه الكرة العرضية المحاولة واستمرار
International sport is not neutral. Events like the World Cup and the Olympics bring people together across borders, but at worst, they also become platforms that legitimize state violence, capitalist exploitation, and imperial domination. When sport governing bodies like FIFA and the IOC fail to uphold their own values of anti-discrimination and human rights, these events become tools of empire. Yet, we have seen a different precedent. After World War II, Germany and Japan were banned from competition. Similarly, South Africa was barred for nearly 3 decades during apartheid. So, why does the US and Israel face zero consequence in an ongoing genocide against the occupied Palestinian population of Gaza? And how could they dare to host a plethora of nations while committing the most atrocious acts of violence we've seen in history? With full US backing, Israel has killed at least 59,000 Palestinians in Gaza, displaced more than 80% of the population, and destroyed over 80% of hospitals, schools, and public buildings. Both states continue to act as lawless rogue powers, violating international law and colluding in unprovoked attacks against sovereign nations. Repression and surveillance have been exacerbated domestically and abroad. Hosting these events in the US will only inflame militarized policing, ICE checkpoints, and forced displacement. The Black Alliance for Peace is calling on FIFA and the IOC to apply pressure, and we want you to join us in generating the momentum needed to build a world based on people-centered human rights. Let's reclaim international sport as a site of global solidarity and resistance. No compromise, no retreat.
And just to put a final point on it, this is a latest tweet where the North-South Project for People-Centered Human Rights of the Black Alliance for Peace, that's our Twitter handle right there. There you go. See there, that's where we are. So follow us. Condemns the outrageous lawlessness of the Israeli government's attack on Qatar and the negotiation team of a sector of the Palestinian resistance. That's the most kind of a headline that you're going to get about the Israeli bombing of Qatar and even how it came about. Because from what I understand, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I guess Trump sent a letter demanding that Hamas negotiate.
Right.
And Hamas is like, you know what? Okay, fine. We'll play your game. All right, fine. We'll go. We'll negotiate. We're going to take you at your word. And then all of a sudden, some of the leadership of Hamas goes to Qatar to negotiate at the invitation of Trump. And suddenly, Israel bombs exactly where they're staying. However, did they know? And I've seen people on X talk about, how Hamas was wrong for letting Al Jazeera know where. It wasn't Al Jazeera. Stop playing. It was the Trump administration telling Benjamin Netanyahu, okay, we got them to go to Qatar. You can go ahead and bomb them. That is what happened. And now Trump is trying to act as if, oh, I didn't know. I did not know that Israel was going to do that. Oh my God.
This also comes after they drone struck one of the boats on the global Sumud flotilla, right?
Today, now it's 2 boats.
Now it's 2 boats. Wow, I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah,
right.
they have bombed another boat. Yes, yeah. No casualties.
The lawlessness. These rogue states can just do whatever the fuck they want throughout the world. Doesn't matter, right? And you have certain, characters that are equally as complicit, right? Just like Qatar, right?
Yeah.
Happily willing to go along, like, yeah, of course, come here. Like, yeah, bomb us, no worries.
Yeah. And that's the
Well,
other part of the conversation, Erica, that people don't like. Qatar, they're weirdos. Uh-oh, did she freeze again?
I think she might have frozen, yeah.
So Cloud, what do we say about the involvement of Qatar in this? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Forgive me if I am, if I'm not. But I'm trying. What do we say about Qatar that they would allow themselves to be used by the Trump administration? I understand they've got this imperialist relationship with the U.S. I get it, but this is Trump. This is the guy who's supposed to be the biggest, most evil fascist on the planet.
Mussolini, Orange Mussolini.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, Qatar signed on to the Abraham Accords, right? Very much happily willing to go along with U.S. imperialism in the region. And it's not just, I mean, shit, it's not just the region, right? Like Qatar has very much involvement on the African continent as well, right? Imperial interests as well. And also in Yemen, right? Like they were very much involved in that, and still are. So Qatar can also just be seen as one of the many, lackeys in the region. And so, I'm not surprised. But yeah, exactly. Like we're not going to see much news about this. It's just going to, all right. Similarly to how we're not necessarily seeing too much news on the 11 people that were extrajudicially murdered on the Caribbean Sea, right? It's just part and parcel of international, what do they call it? International rules-based order. International rules-based order. Oh, yeah. Notice they never actually use international law because that is actually spelled out, right?
Right.
That these things are actually against international law.
Right.
So they're able to get rhetorically and legally able to get found a way around it by saying, instead of actually saying international law, saying an international rules-based order, which is not defined, and if we're going by how the U.S. State Department has defined it, is just U.S. imperial dictates.
Right. What the U.S. says. What the U.S. says the rules are. That is the rules-based order.
Right.
So Erica, are you there?
Oh, barely.
Barely, yeah. The ghost of Erica.
We've got Erica's ghost.
I know. I don't even think I have a picture.
You don't. You're literally just God right now.
Yeah, I know.
The voice of that
the voice
God
in all of our heads. Which is a good thing because some of us need a better voice in our heads.
Listen.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to get more bandwidth, I think, because the Wi-Fi is being used here and then in the room and then the PS5 and then the Switch and then my phone. So I probably have to call Xfinity. No, I don't have much to offer. I think you all hit the points, especially as we think about the complicity of these states. I mean, we talked much about this in terms of like Syria. I think there's marking points in these last 2 years where we can see a particular trajectory where we are sending out these kind of warnings around how we have these discussions, how we understand liberation, for instance, and all of these things. Because these are, when we talk about these Arab states and their complicity in the occupation, and not just Gaza, but also Syria, also spreading into Lebanon, like they have allowed for this because they are buying for their best interests with the West. And this is not something that has just started in the last 2 years. This has been the relationship with these particular nations for a long while. Hence the forming of the alliances between Hamas and Iran and Syria, because they understood what they were up against in terms of these other states in their complicity. And we've seen this go on since what is it? I always think about the Charlie Wilson's War, that movie, but
yeah.
right. So this has been since 79, even, we can argue. The Iranian Revolution. So this is not something that is new, but I do think that the way that we have these conversations around even in particular when we talk about like these Muslim-centric nations, I think there's a lot of focus on the religious aspect and not the ideological and political alliances, right? Because what does it mean to what is the difference, at least, between the way Iran is ran and the way Qatar is ran, right? There's significant differences, even if we're talking about Islamic states, right? Because they have a particular interest, either is against or for the people. So we need to be looking at that. I mean, Qatar, like the way that the Qatar gets to be discussed as like this peacemaking ally, or like everybody has to go there, right? And ignore the last games that happened, right? And the way that the people were mishandled and treated and enslaved in some aspects, right? And there was nothing done to the heads of states there. So I do think that there are ways that, I mean, Dubai and the UAE, all of these play a significant role, not just in Western Asia and what's happening in Gaza, but also like in North Africa and East Africa. We're seeing these things play out as well across that particular region in those straits, because there's the water wars that are propping up, control of straits and seas. So everyone has their better interests. I mean, Turkey's role, my Lord, Turkey's role in the last 2 years has been really under discussed, especially as it pertains to China and what is being said about the Muslim population in China, right? And Turkey's role in that.
Right?
Right. So I do think that there is less discussion about a comprador class or neocolonialism and how states or heads of states are ran. And I also think, to circle back to the Americas, is why when we called for the zone of peace in 2023, it's not to say that this was not a call that already existed. As we've seen with the CELAC signing on to make a stance in support of Venezuela, they acknowledge a zone of peace. This is something that has already existed. The issue is that when these calls come from heads of state, they move nowhere, because heads of state change, and then heads of states and bodies and institutions change. So who was the progressive head of CELAC in the last previous years from Dominica is no longer there, right? So what does it mean to have someone else in place there? Or what does it mean to have the woman from Honduras there, right? It changes the trajectory. It changes the conversations that happen around certain issues. Because when she started to speak about Haiti, they got her out of there. They said, all right, that's enough of you. That was cute. Thank you, right?
Yeah,
when she
really,
took
we're
that
good.
on, so we see that I always like to make these sort of circular points, even if it seems broad, because we look at these issues in very hyper local ways that I think is not helpful to how we understand what is actually happening to us. Right? Because we perpetuate a narrative that we are doing it to ourselves in most instances, right? That we are the criminals, we are violent. Like, even in some instances, I'm watching people who are friends, who are family, that are propagating instances of these little clips where you see people doing criminal acts, right? And saying, well, that's why Trump got something for y'all ass. Like, you see what I'm saying? And then, but these are also the same people who are saying that I shouldn't got nothing to do with us. And so in both instances, I'm observing our people watch the overt militarization, overt policification happening to us. And in both instances, omitting the fight. Omitting it. Like the Venn diagram of that shit is very like we ain't going outside about ICE because that shit ain't got nothing to do with us, and we ain't going outside about this because y'all niggas do be criminals. Like,
Yep.
So
that's
and they're using social media, to your point, also to like make these kind of arguments or validate these kind of things, right? Which is why I do think the emphasis of getting outside and base building is important, because these are the conversations that are being had. Okay, and it is not a paternalistic thing to say that we have a propagated and ignorant population of people, and that is not by happenstance. That is intentional. It is intentional. Right now, like to the point where you say the 90s is understudied.
Yeah,
I'm looking at these documentaries just for that, just to say, that's exactly like the Abercrombie and Fitch documentary. Like there's a way, there's societal shifts that occur in these instances of pop culture that should be noted. That should be noted. We have a generation of kids who are not talking about, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a YouTuber.
Right. Yeah. I want to be an
influencer, social media.
And these are children 5, 6, 7 years old. Right? So that is the trajectory that we're living in. And again, today, Mika and Joe made it a point to point out the illiteracy rates, that high school seniors are not passing tests. Seniors can't read. High school seniors can't read.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about the material, the actual conditions in which we have to organize, we can't be liberal about it. We have to be honest about the conditions of which we are organizing. You know your cousin lives ignorant?
Yep.
You know that? You know they ain't watching the news? You know that? But they still part of the masses. They still have to be reorientated. They still have to be talked to, whether or not they listen. And these are the conversations that you had to know what conversations to engage and what not. It's like, thank God for my family, because I know, I ain't even touching that. I sit right up in the room like I don't know nothing. Because I know they try to make me sometimes too.
Oh, you too?
But there's also instances where they come to me and say, what do you think about this? Did you hear about that? You see what's going on in Trinidad? Like those kind of things, and that's the opening. But we have to be honest about what's there, because if we're not having a day-to-day, like, it's not, you knock on the door, you give them this pamphlet, you give them this trifold and say, have a good day. And then expect that they read it and say, oh, shit, got it. All right, pack your bag, get your boots on, we outside. Like, that's not how we go.
That's not.
A pamphlet in somebody's hand. It never happens like that, ever. That is the product of relationship building. That is the product of being outside every day and consistency and knowing that, every Saturday they got this program. Let me just walk up in there one Saturday. And you build from there. You talk from there, because the people do not know. And our youth, as much as we want to believe, because we see them on TikTok, right? I think there's a way that algorithms work. Just like we are not monolithic, the youth is not monolithic. Right? So we have children and youth who are far more advanced in their understanding, probably because of the household, right? Probably because they're encouraged to learn. And then we have children who are not, because of the household and because they are not encouraged to learn. Part of me doing liberation through reading was because when Black Panther came out, it was all these conversations of, oh my God, we're now seeing ourselves for the first time. And I grew up in the 90s. What you mean seeing yourself for the first time? It was nothing but Black television, and Black movies and Black books. It was Black on Black on Black in the 90s. Leather medallions and African garb. That's how I remember Brooklyn.
I grew up on Martin.
For me, it was a shock to hear people say, I'm now discovering my Blackness. I didn't know that was a thing. I had no idea. But I also didn't grow up void of Blackness. And there are Black people who grew up in the suburbs, and they were the only Black kid in their class. Right? So how do we make those connections where they are the ones who grow up to propagate the crime shit?
Right.
Because they grew up around people who believe that crime shit. So they're equally as scared of Black people as Black people. And that's the conditions of which we are organizing under. We have to be real about the terrain, because all the conversations that we keep having about the left, and I keep saying, what left? Where? Because all the work that we're doing is to build that.
Building it.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It couldn't possibly exist, because if this is the last, yikes.
We in trouble. We cooked.
Because it's disorganized.
So cooked.
We are
It's
cooked.
disorganized. Not a plan, nothing
Nope.
in sight.
Nope.
So how do we get it to that point? And how do we expedite getting it to that point? Because we see the escalation is happening rapidly.
Right. And then in this context of organizing our people under these material conditions that we don't acknowledge, and we even some of us who claim to be organizers, we've got people who criticize organizers because we're not doing whatever it is that they want us to do, but they can never kind of articulate what it is they want us to do that we're not doing. But we also have to deal with this level of lack of information and ignorance among our people. Then we also have to deal with that antagonism from that other section of our people who criticize everything we do, but do not want to hear what we have to say. And everything we say and do is wrong according to them. And then we have to deal with white leftists and their bullshit, right? And then we have to deal with the state. Y'all.
Yeah,
you want revolution next week, and this is the terrain we are navigating to organize our people.
And I think, I always refer back to the podcast episode you and Musa did on groundings with Hiram around the counterinsurgency of the nonprofit industrial complex. Because, man, if we don't constantly get members into BAP that, I work in nonprofits, I know how to organize. And I'm like, oh, no, no. Because there's a very serious... I think they, NGOs definitely play a very serious counterinsurgent role in terms of, but you can only move this so far, right? You can only go up to this point, right? And sort of setting the limitations of what resistance can and cannot look like, right? And then assuming that is what organizing is, folks are bringing that into actual revolutionary organizations, but still having that liberalism of NGOs, of nonprofit,
we all do, though. Yeah, separate from the NGO thing, I think if you've never organized, then you don't know organizing, right? Or you don't know what it is to do. So I think all of that is like a process of development. Like, before I found BAP, 2 years prior, I was voted Democrat. Or, well, not BAP, BAR, really. But 2 years prior, I was voting Democrat, right? So what is that trajectory and what is that shift? Like, it's not that people are not unable to do it. You see how, the point I'm making is people are aware of their conditions, right? But awareness is not the same as consciousness. And how do we get people conscious enough to move, right? Because you can be aware. Everybody can, there's no way possible that nobody is seeing the genocide that's happening in Gaza at this point, to this day. Then somebody has not come across a beheading or a child that has been blown up or people being pulled from under a building at some point in the last 2 years. There's no way, right? But that awareness has not made people conscious to why it's happening and what their role is in stopping it. And I think that is the intervening role that organizers play. Because it is not, again, this is not a paternalistic conversation. This is not to say everybody's dumb but us.
Right.
That's not what this is. But there is a development of going from a point A to a point B to a point C. And people are trying to go, not even starting from point A, just jumping out the box to C. They're not even, and expecting things from that. And I do think that there needs to be a realism around the terrain of which we have to organize people around, right? What I know today, I did not know before. And that everybody can say that. What I know, I always say that about Haiti. Before the Haiti American team, the way I can speak about Haiti today is a product of being, under, being at the foot of Jemima Pierre and absorbing that knowledge, or, being in conversations with these Haitian groups and absorbing that knowledge and being able to disseminate what is happening from what isn't happening. And, providing an analysis for myself so that I can then go speak to people about it. But I didn't know, I knew as much about Haiti as anybody knew about Haiti. The earthquake, the coup, and the revolution.
Right.
The marking points, and for many, that's all you need to know, because for many, a lot of their knowledge of Haiti stopped short of the revolution. Haiti's the first Black country, first Black free republic. All right, and so when we talk about Haiti being under colonial conditions today, people are confused because they know Haiti is the first Black free republic. So obviously it must be the gangs, right? Did you see on the news how much violence? I mean, Ear Doctor, we can, for whatever contrarian act that he does, purposeful or not, I think he provides that perspective that there are people who believe that, who would go, they pick up, they turn on the channel 11 and the first thing they see is Russia bombed Ukraine. And that's it. There's no further investigating. They're gonna turn off their TV and go to work. Because that was like on the morning news. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the purpose or the role that organizers play or should be playing is that intervening between awareness and consciousness, right? Like, what is our role in the development of people who are coming to the organization to organize? And they want to be a part of something and they want to do it. But, we can make BAP an example, but I ain't gonna hold you. BAP nothing like BAP existed before and ain't nothing like BAP now. So it's really hard for me to say, like, when people come into it, it's different from a lot of things. It's like, it's 7-8 years old, right? It's different from a lot of things. So I don't want to make that an example per se, but I do see, like, in ways that when we think about organizing in general, in terms of what we're observing in the movement, quote unquote, from like a bird's eye view, you can see where some of these gaps are, because there's an expectation from people who are organizers that, they are going to be able to shift things tomorrow in some instances. And that's just never going to happen, because it's not going to happen in the struggles within your own organization. It's not going to happen in the struggles outside of it. That is process. That is patience. And in this social media, 1 minute or less shit, niggas don't got that. Don't nobody have patience. Nobody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, how do you explain, that the things that we see on social media, that is a result of a process, right? Like, when I was here talking about, Bolivia, that was a result of process, right? Months, if not years, of defining structure, defining processes. How do we vote? Who is a member? What is active membership? What does that look like, right? What would, if you go against wishes, is that expulsion worthy, right? Like, all of these things have been thought through, struggled through, right? And so you can't just come at it and look at it from the outside and not take that into consideration. The process of actually building a new society, just like it is here, right? Like, the process of organizing, it is that struggle. It's showing up at meetings. It's providing, feedback. It's providing criticism, right? And self-criticism, right? It's the whole process, right? Like, you can't just, skip your way over it, because that is the process of organizing with your folks. So when there can be a lot of criticism, but you can't critique from outside of an organization, right?
That
I will just say that's quite undisciplined. I mean, you can, but
yeah, you can, but it's not valid.
Right.
It's not a valid. You can have whatever, and I think I've kind of taken to telling people this. You can have whatever opinion about what we do that you like. That's fine. That's cool. That's your opinion. That's how you see what we do. That's okay, great. And I don't care, because you're not doing any work. You're not doing anything. You're not helping. You're not improving. If we're doing something wrong, your critique from the outside, which is unprincipled and very usually incorrect, but your critique is not even serving to help us improve. It's just criticism for the sake of you saying that you don't like organization and you don't like organizers, which to me is just a declaration that you ain't gonna do shit. And if that's the case, then go on and not do shit and leave us alone.
Or start your own thing, you know? Start your own thing. That's fine too.
Is MAGA
Please.
So, well, one, Al is funny as shit. Al said I was talking like I found salvation in BAP. Before that, I was wayward.
I was blinded by liberalism and I did not see.
I'm fucking dead.
No, but also like somebody else said, like, so we can't critique MAGA from outside. But again, you know, words mean things. So is MAGA an organization?
Right.
Like,
right,
what
exactly.
Is MAGA? MAGA is as much of a
it?
movement as whatever it is we're trying to do here or build here. MAGA is a movement, right? Which is separate from like the organization, because I don't even understand that. I just think it's, again, the contrarian for the sake of it. But what I'm saying is that there are ways. You know what? I think Claudia de la Cruz did a really good response to a criticism. You know,
people don't like it, but
yeah, it was really good.
You can move that line.
I'll refer to Claudia.
Refer people to Claudia de la Cruz's video, because I just and you know, I think that kind of stuff does reflect when we talked earlier about the levels of ignorance of our people. And please understand, ignorance is a technical term that literally means you don't know.
Say it again. Say it again.
You don't know. See, if we called you stupid, that'd be a different thing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about our people, and most people in this country lacking basic knowledge about how this shit works, what really happened, the actual history, and the way the government really does work. We are all ignorant of the actual system and the way it works. Look at the white farmers right now. You mean to tell me you don't see those people as completely ignorant of the consequences that they didn't realize they were voting for? That is a result of political ignorance. And that's not to say they're evil people. They did not have the basic information about the truth about Donald Trump and this system, because they all on welfare.
Well, I'll tell you where you can come get the truth, right here on the Remix Morning Show. Once again, we have done it on this Women's Wednesday. Thank all y'all for coming through. Thank all our hosts for coming through and doing a thing. What we got coming up on Darker Than Blue, Jackie?
I am going to try to have the organizer for Taxpayers Against Genocide on, and the lead attorney in the case that was filed, who is also one of the co-founders of the Flotilla Coalition. So I feel like I'm not talking about the flotilla enough. So I want to have them on to talk about it, and I hope I'm going to be able to get that done this Friday. But that's the plan.
Okay, all right, Cloud, Erica, what we got for BAP?
We got.
But Camilla's on the flotilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
She ain't saying nothing to me about it, but you know, whatever.
Oh wow. Sounds like a conversation we need to have.
Like, Cloud, like, what are we talking about? Shut up.
All right. Well, we'll have that talk off screen so we can get ready to get out of here. We'll be back here tomorrow with some more of the Remix Morning Show. Make sure y'all go ahead and get y'all some gear over there when y'all go to BLK Liberation Media. And also, we'll be back tomorrow for a classical breakdown, Run DMC at 11 a.m. So, yeah, dope stuff coming on Black Liberation Media. And we out of here, y'all.
Today for the protest against the data center, if you're in Maryland.
Come on out. See y'all tomorrow, y'all. Peace out.
Yeah.